Okay, good evening, everybody. How's everyone doing? Hey there, Chris. Hey there, Mo. Hope you're all good. Obviously, hope you can hear me and hope you can see me. Hopefully, both of those things you can. But I'm just having a look already. And it looks like my camera's frozen, which is always an interesting start for these sort of things. But anyway, I think it's starting to clear itself up. I don't know. Just tell me, guys, if it's freezing up a bit or looking okay. Anyway, thanks again for joining us on another Tuesday night. But yeah, we're over halfway through September already, which is kind of crazy. We're gonna tonight. Well, I don't know about you. I kind of struggled to find any news that I was particularly interested about this week. So I think the news section is going to be pretty short. We're then going to have a dive in. We're going to talk about Energy Web token, the Energy Web Foundation. Have a look at that. That's something that's been asked about for a while. Finally got around to having a bit of a look into that. So we'll go through there. And then what we're going to do, there's no sort of like major topic to have a look at, but what I thought we'd do, it's been about 8 or 9 weeks since we've kind of done let's have a look at the price of all the assets, go through the charts, kind of see where we are on the higher time frames, lower time frames. I've got the charts up, which I did on the 25th of July, so we can kind of see where things are sitting compared to those. Having a look at where Bitcoin's price is, what it's doing. I mean, classically, again today, it kind of messed up my narrative in my YouTube link because we're not hanging around the 26K anymore. We've actually moved up. We're at 27,000. We've still got a bit of time, both today and we've sort of seen that climbs up. But it has been a fairly steady increase, pretty much the last sort of 9 or 10 days. So we'll see how that is working out, not just across Bitcoin, but other altcoins as well. So if there are any altcoins you want me to particularly have a look at whilst we're going through, please just drop them in the chat and I will get around to having a look at those as well. Otherwise, we kind of just be sticking to my list of ones that I think you guys would be interested in. But without any further ado, let's just dive in and cover the news. So, one that probably is going to interest a few of you in the group is the announcement or the news that broke earlier on this week to suggest that Bybit we're going to leave the UK market. We're certainly looking to leave the UK market based on some new regulations, some new bill that is effectively being passed, and what that bill was. Now, the bill itself has got nothing to do with a ban on derivatives or anything like that. That's already in place. This is more about how exchanges can offer promotions and other sort of advertising and marketing to new and existing customers. And I kind of got the FCA breakdown of what it's going to be up, which we can go through a little bit later on. But actually, the news that I want to say is, as soon as this news broke, and we talked about it in Discord, actually, within 24 hours, Bybit have come out and said, no, look, guys, we ain't leaving. We're going to stay within the UK. We will try and accommodate the new changes in the rules that are going to take place. But that doesn't necessarily change our core sort of opportunity that we see the UK providing. So for those of you that do use Bybit, whether you use it for spot trading, whether you use it for derivatives trading, it is actually still going to remain. So that's potentially not something that you necessarily need to worry about. Now, what was the rule? What was the concern? Well, let's just have a little read through here, and then I will bring up the FCA document. But it's a new regulatory landscape just down from here. I don't know why that came up in red. Pretty awful to look at. Crypto has been the subject of intense scrutiny by regulatory authorities around the world. We know that. We focus very much on the United States. There certainly have been some rule changes in the UK. Reese, can anyone else tell me if it is too loud? If it's not, I'm going to try and do as best I can, Reese. Let's have a look. Mike's kind of on full blast. Tell you what. Someone just let me know if that one sounds any louder to you. And then what I'll do is I will wait. Mine's low. It's loud. Oh, brilliant. That's better. Okay, right. Who knows? Some people saying it's low, some people say it's loud. I don't know if it's because I moved the mic, changed the settings, or you just need your ears cleaning. But hopefully that works better for everybody. The reason I ask is it's probably not picking up very well on the recording either. But thank you, Reese, for letting me know. Yeah, so the UK is no exception. The FCA are bringing it in. Now, the UK are making positive strides, or should I say better strides than the United States at the moment, and they are trying to sculpt out a landscape for regulation within the crypto space. It's still pretty vague. Things are just coming out a bit ad hoc, but at some stage we're going to need to get an understanding of this, and we want to get an understanding of where they're at pretty much by the time the next bull run starts. So I'm assuming next year, I'd like to sort of try and run through where we are and what's different from the times before, so we can kind of understand it. You know, I don't want to go too much into the tax point of views, but just trying to make sure that we're not going to trip ourselves up later on. But one notable change on the horizon is the overhaul of the rules for the governing of financial promotions, which takes place from the October the 8th. And this is the one that Bybit were referring to. So the FCA's financial promotion rules will encompass crypto companies, potentially impacting their ability to reach local customers. To promote transparency and protect consumers, these rules necessitate that any company engaging in UK clients must be registered or authorized by the hopefully that's my mixer is going crazy at the moment. So that is an interesting one. I've seen what you guys have said. Hopefully it's picked up. Maybe that's what the problem was in the first place, but it was going color. I don't normally see it. So, right. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, guys. The mixer. So effectively the microphone is connected to the mixer. The mixer's connected to the computer. Maybe a loose connection or whatever, but it had cut out. So apologies. Maybe that's what caused it in the first place. And now it's back but low. I mean, I'm struggling here. It's okay. Let's try another setting. How's this one? We've got back but low. Good job we don't have much news to talk about, because I'm spending most of the time with the technical side of things. I'm trying to put the mic as close to my mouth as I can. How's that, guys? Is that any better or better? Okay, Reese, you're my sound check. You were the one that said it was low beforehand. So if you're happy with it, everyone else is going to have to be. Right. Good job I do check chat, because I could have been chatting. Now it's very loud. Oh, Chris, I'm struggling here. Okay, right. So the point is that whilst this is a positive step, I just realized you probably didn't hear it. Effectively, the FCA has said that, you know, promotions used by crypto companies can only be done if you are registered. Now, they're looking to ban derivatives and exchange traded notes for retail consumers. Derivatives have been banned actually for a while, and basically what has happened is companies like Bybit have got around it by, I can't remember the term they use, it's reverse. Oh, I wish it was in this article. Maybe it's in. Just bear with me. I can't remember what it was called now. You would have thought I'd actually remembered that. I can just quickly Google it though. So if you just bear with me. No, I can't apparently. What did I have a look at it for? Anyway, let's just go back and have a look at the SCA rules, because that's going to be a little bit easier. It'll be explained in here, I'm certain of it. So what the FCA came out and said last week was that as of the 8th of October, any cryptocurrency asset, any products, they need to, one, be registered if they're going to target people, but also how they're going to target them needs to be looked at. So things like, you know, referring a friend bonuses, they're likely going to go. I'm just going to get my chat up to make sure you guys are still talking to me and saying that you can hear me. There we go. Yep. They also need to ensure that there are 24-hour cool-off periods and very clear understanding of that. Now, remember the first article said it was the 8th of October. That's what it's saying here. They come into effect from the 8th of October. However, effectively firms have until the beginning of January to make sure that they are compliant with this. But if they don't start making those changes as of the beginning of next month, then they will be fined. And it goes on to say that potentially they could end up in prison. I'm not sure. sort of for what time period that may be or anything like that. There was one, I'm really gutted that I can't bloody find this this element here. And what I'm going to do is just try and see if I can scan through it here. Oh, but I can't remember what the term is, but effectively how other companies were getting away with the likes of Bybit was because they were based in another country, a third-party country, whatever you want to term it as, and they were using a loophole that effectively said, you guys, as in consumers, you opted into this. We're not promoting to you out of the blue. You've already signed up to us. We're not based in your country. So you are happily using our website. And if you come across exchanges, if you come across any marketing, any promotions that you see there, that's not really our fault. Well, the FCA are trying to tidy it up, and they've basically come out and said, anything you write in the English language is deemed as you are writing as if based from the UK. And that's what Bybit had the problem with. They were, the narrative and the language they used in their concerns was just basically saying that the FCA have basically targeted anyone that speaks English, and that is going to significantly restrict how they recruit new people to the sites. You can understand that they're a business; they need to bring in new people. But this is what the FCA are going along, and when I remember it in about 45 minutes time, I'll shout out exactly what the term is. I will post this in there, but I'm not going to bother making it too dry and just reading through this point. I think the key point I wanted to make, because I was quite concerned Bybit was going to go, they're the primary exchange that I use. So, it's just useful that they would remain. Now, I haven't done much trading recently. You all know that, but I will get back into it, no doubt about it. So the fact that they are staying, that's going to help me no end. What was this news article? Oh, this was one. Again, UK bill that was passed today or earlier on this week. I'm a bit torn on this one. So a new UK bill would allow police to seize cryptocurrency before an arrest is made. Now, immediately that puts my back up because, that is just sort of giving them the power. I mean, how do they get the right to take someone's assets before they don't? It's almost like freezing a bank account. And what I was going on a bit of a rampage to say, look, guys, this is why you need to take self-custody of any crypto asset you have. I'm not saying that, you're doing illicit or illegal things with it, but if you are accused of that, then they might be able to, stop those funds before it even gets there. But the only way they'd really be able to do that would be probably if you keep it on an exchange. And that leads you down the rabbit hole. Well, then exchanges are going to have to be complicit in this, and they're going to have to allow the police and the UK government to have access to your hot wallet on their exchange. So, it was definitely going to be a bit of a narrative about we need to make sure that we are keeping our cryptos on our own wallets. You only put them on exchange for the time that you feel that you need to trade them, etc., etc. It's the kind of same narrative we've regurgitated for years now. And I think that's still my overriding feature. I don't particularly like the way that this bill is going. I just feel that giving the police the power to confiscate crypto before suspects have even been convicted or arrested is a slippery slope. Now, they have obviously spun it differently. They're like, look, if we can find that people are, hacking wallets or taking it or whatever, we need to be able to move quickly. We need to be able to intercept any funds that are taken as soon as we can. And sometimes waiting for an arrest warrant or whatever we use in the UK, a judge to sign that off, the money's already gone and it's somewhere where it can't be. And part of me agrees with that. We all know that there were people in the group a couple of years ago that had their wallets hacked. A lot of money was taken. And I'm not saying the police would have been able to move in time, and I'm sure they would have been sophisticated to get around it. But you can kind of see sometimes where actually you could be the victim of something, and it would be very useful for the law to be able to step in and potentially stop that moving before it did. So they're saying, look, we're actually only looking to freeze assets linked to crimes such as drug trafficking, cyber crimes, and terrorists. And I think it says somewhere in this article, and they have to be. Oh, yeah, so it would apply to criminals targeting UK citizens from outside the UK. So they're saying, look, it's not if someone does the crime within the UK, it's only if they're targeting from outside, which again, in the instance of what happened in this group a couple of years ago, that was the case. Now, I haven't actually read the bill to be able to go into any detail to see whether or not they're just cherry picking key lines for him, and it does open it up. But you can kind of see that, as I mentioned at the beginning, the UK is moving forward with providing some sort of, updated bills and regulations, to bring into law about what we can and can't do. And I think that step is just going to continue to happen. I get the feeling that it's going to be at a fairly decent pace. But I think what we'll do is we'll just take stock in a couple of months' time and just try and actually see where the landscape actually lies. Okay, that's it for the news. As I say, I couldn't really find anything. Yeah, I was going to talk about Sam Bankman-Fried's dad. He's in a bit of trouble. They're going to say that he was a knowing officer in some of these activities, so he's in for a bit of trouble. The SEC got another little bloody nose, and the judge rejected their application to have a look at some of Binance's documents. So again, small fry. They're just little soundbite ones that have come about, but there's no real substance within the news article yet because things still need to move along with us. We'll monitor them and hopefully we'll end up being able to talk about them a little bit later on. Just in terms of someone up here, Richard, I have seen all of your charts. So if I don't remember to scroll back to those, please remind me when we get onto that. And in terms of any questions that have been put to me beforehand, there wasn't really too much. Well, there was only one. And this is more one to just add on to the research tokens, which is PROPI, which is a real world asset token. I'll certainly have a look at that, but I thought, well, while we're here, why don't we just type it in and see what we can see? I will add it to the list to do a more detailed one. I don't think I really did a good enough job with Relio. And I suppose actually, whilst we're looking for this to load, a little bit of apology. I feel like last couple of research tokens probably could have done a better job on both of them. So hopefully today's is going to be a little bit better, a little bit more interesting for you. But here's PROPI. It's currently ranked at 500 in terms of market cap. It's only got 26 million market cap. And it, like you say, it has been around since 2018, but it has got low volume. I mean, $270,000 on something that's worth 26 cents. You know, that's like what, a million transactions? All right. No. Yeah. In 24 hours. It's not really on much exchange, and even on the exchanges, it's pretty low volume. So there are a couple of things that I'd certainly want to have a look at, see where it's gone. It was obviously an ICO launch because look at that all-time high in 2018. And it did all right in the last bull run, but it didn't eclipse the all-time high from 2018. But I'm going to put that down to it was probably launched as an ICO and just the hyper momentum took over that. But it is trading around about a range that it has done for the vast majority of its life in around 20 to 25 cents. So potential for some upside. I just need to actually see what it does. We know that this is a sector I think could definitely boom. I think people need to be clear on the narrative of exactly how real world assets are going to be monetized, digitized. And if people can kind of get their head around that, and I think this is a sector that will do very well. So whether or not we're a little too early, maybe one bull run too early for it, we'll just have to wait and see. I used to own some PROPI bought back in 2018, sold it in the last bull run. Okay, nice. Well, hopefully you bought it in sort of the back end of 2018. Well, Richard, doesn't have to necessarily be now in the chat, but I'd love to understand, was it just you bought it because someone talked about it? Did you actually have a look into it? Do you have any faith in the project, etc.? It'd be interesting to get other people's point of view. But yeah, I mean, it went from 10 cents to over $3. So it didn't do too bad, to be fair, 30x if you timed it right. But okay, anyway, so that's that one. Nothing else really on the chat to go through. So what I'll do now is we might as well talk about the research token we're looking at this week. So bear with me. This is it. Okay. So one that's been requested a couple of times, Energy Web token, EWT, however you want to refer to it as. I actually did quite a bit of comprehensive notes on this one. Oops, wrong way there. Because it was interesting to a sense, but I think I kind of have to get my head around the story behind it as well. So as always, I might be looking to the left just to go through the notes. So what is Energy Web? And I think the first thing we always try and talk about, when we do these research tokens correctly, is what problem is it actually trying to solve? And so perhaps we just need to understand a few terminologies first, and then that will help us when we go forward. So when we think about energy, we think about the energy network. People talk about the grid, and some people may know what that is, some people may not know what that is. But I think it will help just to provide some context as to what the grid is, because we are going to refer back to that a little bit later on. So you can imagine, think of the grid as a distributed network of assets I mean actual assets, buildings, etc., that help provide energy from the producer to the consumer. So what I'm talking about there, I'm talking about power stations to generate the energy in the first place. I'm talking about power lines, substations, distributors, distribution lines to houses, wall plugs, whatever it needs to be. And that is, so I'll come back to that comment, Rich, because it's back on the previous one. And that's effectively what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the grid. But we actually need to add an extra word to that thing, and we should call that the legacy grid, because that's the existing infrastructure that the world has. And the issue or the problem with that is that existing infrastructure was built decades ago, and its primary sort of focus or drive toward is to, providing energy from producer to consumers that's effectively fossil fueled energy, certainly not sustainable, certainly non-reusable. Now, yes, over the last couple of decades, we've made great strides in renewable energies and sustainable energies, but they have been bolted on to the existing legacy infrastructure. And in many cases, actually, they're just siloed. They're just completely separate entities that then take, ironically, energy, resource, what's the term I'm probably looking for? And I suppose increased waste to get it from that siloed position to the consumer. And this is where Energy Web comes in, because their aim is to connect renewable energy assets, so renewable energy assets, to the existing legacy infrastructure, but actually to then take it a step further, because they see that when the world has to, moves completely away from fossil fuels, but we'll go with the term when, they want to be that backbone that provides the new infrastructure and assets to sort of move that information, that energy from producer to consumer. And there's a lot of investment that is going towards that. When you go on the website, there's loads of like papers and case studies that have been done, and there's one that sort of talks about how many trillions of dollars we're going to spend over the next 30 to 50 years to try and improve the existing infrastructure, effectively replace it. And this is exactly what Energy Web are looking to tap into. And we as the consumers, we're actually going to be the investors in that. Our taxes and everything else are going to be the ones that are paying for that. But we already know, let's exclude countries like India and China, certainly the United Kingdom, we have some government standards requirements that we're looking to aim towards, about net neutral and all of that kind of stuff, zero carbon waste, etc., that we're looking to move to. And those deadlines are fast approaching us. At one stage it was 2050, then 2040, then 2030. 2030 seems pretty close at the moment, so whether or not that will slip to the right, we'll have to wait and see. But you can kind of see that that's only going to be done if governments step up, and government's going to only really be funded by us paying for it. So we have an invested interest into how this is going to go along. So that was my very dumbed down version of what problem it is that they're trying to solve. And when I go to why do we exist, I think it's on this page here. Come back to this at the moment. But their mission. Energy Web is a global non-profit on a mission to accelerate the energy transition by developing and deploying open source Web3 technologies that help companies unlock business value from clean and distributed energy resources. That's the mission statement language for what I've bumbled my way through by myself. Sort of again, who are they and how did they come about this? Well, Energy Web, I kind of feel like I'm jumping the gun to explain this, but I feel like it's important enough that we can. You can kind of see some of the stuff scrolling along the bottom. But Energy Web was set up a lot different to how other crypto Web3 based projects are. It wasn't by individuals, and it wasn't coming to the market with a solution. It was actually set up by a couple of think tanks, one called, just bear with me, Rocky Mountain Institute, and the other one Grid Singularity, which you've got a think tank for the in energy industry, and then you've got a sort of blockchain think tank as well, have come together to try and work with major multinational, multi-billion-dollar organizations from the ground, from the beginning, to try and solve this problem. And so that's exactly how they've gone and approached it. They have reached out to some of the largest energy companies in the world. The amount of partnerships that they have been able to create are pretty darn impressive, actually. Just make sure I'm not skipping over anything too important. Let me just quickly read here. And yeah, so sorry, I'm just going through the notes. I have been skipping over a lot of it. Its purpose is to build, this is Energy Web's purpose, is to build an ecosystem of infrastructure players within the energy sector. I think that's what I was supposed to write. I just timed it wrong. And working towards, pushing towards the adoption of these new energy sector goals, targets, whatever you want to necessarily call it. So, a real push towards renewable and sustainable energies, but providing that infrastructure. And that infrastructure, maybe power lines, but also there's a technological infrastructure that needs to be in place using Internet of Things and using the web, Web3, etc. as we go forward. And we'll talk about that. Now, when we look a little bit later on about competitors and when you look at about the sector within the crypto space, it's a very small sector. But back in the ICO days, there were loads of companies that launched towards sort of energy-based blockchains, and they just don't exist anymore. They really have just been eradicated. I'm sure some were pump and dumps, and I'm sure some had great intent. But ultimately, we're talking about trying to disrupt, a very stubborn, legacy, Jurassic, dinosaur, whatever you want to call it, redundant sector. Because, as I mentioned at the beginning, this entire sector was based originally around the burning of fossil fuels. And we know we're moving away from that. But at the moment, these companies are making an awful lot of money by trying to retain that ability. And so we are talking about a sector which may be very resistant to change. And they have the resources, the money, and ultimately, I was going to say the better tech, but the more widely used tech in terms of burning of fossil fuels rather than using sustainable fuels to be able to fight that off. And so the way that Energy Web have come about trying to actually engage with these companies from the very beginning, I think is the correct way of necessarily doing this. Because there's no point you coming up to a solution if they're not going to buy into it at the beginning. And they have, like I say, the power and the money to just ignore if they need to. So rather embed yourself with these people from an early stage to be able to try and influence, try and bring them on board, get them excited about blockchain technology, get them excited about what the use case can be and how that can benefit them going forward. And when we look at the team later, you can see that the team has effectively been set up to do that. So yes, I put EWF. So sorry, Energy Web Foundation. So I should have said the Energy. So you got Energy Web. We're going to talk about Energy Web Chain. The Energy Web Foundation are the two companies that came together. So that is Rocky Mountain Institute and Grid Singularity. I will try and stick better to my notes here. So engaging right from the start, talking to them about the benefits and use case of blockchain as well as decentralized technology, and then get them to use this technology. And let's have a look at some of these partnerships because it is impressive. So this is the list here, and I might have to zoom in so you can kind of see some of this, but I'm going to sort of skim through the list. I'm going to show you another screenshot as well, but I will try and pick out a few names that I think some of you may or may not have heard, but we've got the likes of EDF, we've got Eon there, we've got Equinor, we've got Excelon, NG, General Electric. Let's have a look. So I'm scrolling down. I mean, I can already see Shell. We've got PTT. We've got PG&E, R3. I don't know why I'm getting excited about naming these. But Siemens, Hitachi was up there somewhere as well. I definitely know they were there. Total, Vodafone, Volkswagen. I think BMW on the list as well. It is generally a very large amount. Now, a lot of these other ones you may never have heard of. But when we go on like largest energy companies, my market cap, Exxon were on that list as well. Sorry, I missed over them. But you can see that we're talking about, Exxon, Shell, Total, BP, Equinor we mentioned. Iberdrola, they're on there. I'm just skimming down. I'm sure there's plenty of other ones. But Pacific Gas and Electric, PG&E, which we mentioned, NG, we did. These are companies which are, market caps of billions, hundreds of billions. And so, yeah, they are working with them. So they've got some huge partnerships. Which I think is great, and they're not just focusing necessarily on energy companies, although that's the primary focus, they're also focusing on those that utilize the energy. So we've got car manufacturers, got train manufacturers, Vodafone, General Electrics. We've also got banking institutes, because they know that even when they get this thing set up, they actually need to have some relationships for managing that payment and everything else. So yeah. So that's kind of who they are, what the problem is they're trying to solve, and potentially a unique way of how they've gone about and done it. But what does it actually do, and how does it work? I think that's, something that we probably need to sort of go through and have a talk about first. Well, Energy Web, for want of a better term, is just a layer one blockchain. And it's a layer one blockchain that does exactly the same as every other layer one blockchain you can think about. You can build dApps off it. You can run smart contracts. You can transfer assets, make payments, do all of that kind of stuff. So there's nothing necessarily too original about that. But what is unique is this networks, layer one networks, interaction with real utilities. So the idea being that, they can track usage. They can record demand for individuals and businesses. And then because it's done with blockchain technology and ledger technology, and it's open source, they can build up that level of trust so that the information that's being recorded can be seen, and, people know exactly where they stand with it. And this is where we get back to sort of what we think about as being that power grid, that legacy grid we talked about, because the legacy grid was very much, just hardwired, wasn't it? It's power station, power lines, substation, houses, power sockets. Whereas, yes, that's still needed because you need to get the energy to the house. But in terms of how Energy Web can help sort of build that next, I don't know what we're going to call it, the new grid, probably see a fancier name than that, is by using the Internet of Things and using Web3. And yes, it may be a incredibly large undertaking that they're doing, but they have developed some technology, which we'll run through in a moment, which is going to help them utilize Internet of Things. When I'm talking about Internet of Things, I'm talking about assets and equipment and everything else that can run over the internet. It can pass information over the internet, and it's that information and that data that's going to help these companies. I'll be honest, when I read through how this works, when I watched a few videos, the breakdown of actually how it works is pretty dry. And I'm still going to try and go over it, but I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, because I suppose ultimately, if this is a project you're interested in, you may not necessarily be needing to know how it works, because you're not an organization, an individual, a company that wants to utilize this layer one blockchain as a way of tracking, trading data and information. But I'm still going to try and give you a general understanding of where it goes. So Energy Web built this thing called EWDOS, which is EWDOS, which is Energy Web decentralized operating system. And we're going to have a little look through this. So this is the white paper. Now, when I opened this white paper, I'd never seen this graphic before. So this is, I think, the latest white paper. It's certainly the one that you click through CoinMarketCap, which we know is generally always wrong. So it might not be. But this is the one that I've seen in the past. Now, I think they generally are very much the same. I think it's just how they've labeled these purple boxes are slightly different here. So I'm going to utilize this one here. This is what I sort of base my notes upon. And hopefully, if you are interested in this, you'll read through and it'll still make sense to you. But it has three layers, which we can see are made up on the left-hand side. We've got the trust, utility, and the toolkits. And whilst it's on the bottom layer, the trust layer is effectively the most important layer. So that is the chain itself, the Energy Web chain, as it's called. And as we mentioned, this chain, like any other network, does all the things that you'd expect of other layer one networks to do. But its actual primary function is to provide provenance. And is that the right word? Probably. Provenance of digital IDs for the energy sector. So that is any asset that connects on there. It can track, it can take the data, it can understand what the data is, it can move it along. So to give you an example, if you have either Hive, Thermostat, I think there's Nest and a few other ones, those could be on the Energy Web chain. That data could be understood. So it needs to know what that piece of equipment is, so it can pass that information across, and it can understand, it's not just data anymore, because it's got rules to it. it's turned into information that can be used. Or if you have an electric vehicle, that could be on there. Or if you have a charge point for an electric vehicle, if you have solar panels on your house, they could also be on there. So you can kind of now start to build up a picture of, yes, businesses and organizations are going to use it, but they have to be used from an individual level. And individuals, you yourself may not need to register these on them, because when you sign up to the likes of Hive or whatever, there might be some little tick box you never bother reading in the T's and C's, which just says that as soon as you register this and set it up, we're going to automatically put it onto the UDOS so we can track your information. And so yeah, that's how it's going to work. We'll talk about how they register that information a little bit later. But anything on the energy web chain can be tracked and monitored and traced. So it traces absolutely everything within the network. And you can just imagine, a scenario, I suppose, where it can calculate, how much energy was collected by the solar panels. And because you have an electric car as well, okay, and then they plug their electric car in. Was there enough energy at the time to charge their car? And then it can track the data of how many times a week do you charge your car? So do you actually drive it to empty and then charge it all the way up? Or actually just drive it to 50% and then charge it back up to 100, to 80%? Are you using more energy than you normally do? All that kind of information, which is going to be gold dust to the industries, because data is key for what they want to do. They can understand how that power loads need to be managed, and they can kind of take it from there. Now, this chain uses a consensus mechanism called proof of authority. Now, we talked about proof of authority when we talked about VeChain a couple of weeks ago, so I'm not really going to go necessarily into that again, just because I'm trying to save time. But if you are interested in how proof of authority works, just go back to, I think it's August 22nd video, have a look at it there. Why have they chosen proof of authority? Why not proof of work? Well, obviously proof of work is pretty energy heavy, or certainly was back when this started. I should have said that this started in 2019. It started in 2017, but actually came something to fruition in 2019. And if you're an energy-based organization, you probably don't want to be using the most energy-dependent consensus mechanism out there. So they've gone with proof of authority, which does share some similarities with both proof of work and also proof of stake, but it just has sort of an extra level of complexity towards that. Now, this is where data that you see in these documents are just a bit outdated, because we know that back in the day, proof of work used to use about the same amount of energy for the Bitcoin network each year as a small country. That's kind of changed now, and we've seen the narrative shift in the last couple of weeks about we're getting to over 50% using sustainable energy for Bitcoin mining. And they were basically just putting it to, whereas over a year for proof of authority, it's about the requirement of a small office, or medium-sized office, should I say. So a much more significantly reduced footprint for energy requirements, which, is what you want, from a PR point of view, as well as for a running cost point of view. So it still needs validators. So proof of authority still needs validators to effectively sign and create new blocks. So with proof of works, it's the last miner to do it creates the block. Whereas with proof of authority, I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but I ended up having to talk about it. Proof of authority, they do have a predetermined number of pre-authorized validators. Is there anything else I need to say about that? Don't think so. What is a bit of a interesting twist in this dry topic is how we talked about it again with VeChain, how you can access it. So Energy Web Chain is both permissionless and permissioned, if that makes sense. So what do I mean by that? So if I want to put an asset onto the chain, register it, that's permissionless. Okay, so I can do that, and that doesn't need to be authorized, doesn't need to be approved, which kind of makes sense, because if you're onboarding massive energy companies with a huge stock of inventory, you don't want one person having to authorize every single one that comes on the chain. You just want to have the capability for them to put on themselves, but you don't want that person to have too much rights within the chain. So there's a permissionless element to it, which they can register stuff on, but that permission side of things is why they've chosen validators to then, sort of sign off and create new blocks. So they have already predetermined who they are. There's a cycle of which they go through, and I suppose it doesn't really matter necessarily outside of that. Did I just skip over anything there? No, I don't think so. Okay, so that's the trust layer. Basically, it's the network. Then you've got the utility layer. And as you can see from this graphic here, the utility layer, it has the opportunity for transaction relays, for bridges. So, you know, whilst at the moment it isn't interoperable, they understand where it's very limited interoperability. They understand that where this could end up going, and so the capabilities for bridges. It does require oracles on there, you know, because it wants that real-time data. I don't know if it is the likes of Chainlink it uses, but that's where, you know, sort of Chainlink has its basis in there. Messaging and storage makes complete sense. EWNs, so EWNs are Electric Web's naming service. So much like ENS, which is Ethereum naming service, it has the capability for naming sides of things. So that utility layer kind of makes sense in terms of just sort of functions in which can be done off the chain. And then we've got the toolkits, which is the top layer, which is, I mean, it's exactly what it says it is on the tin. These are toolkits for software developers to be able to develop the likes of dApps, smart contracts, and everything else that's required to operate and run off the web chain. I'm not going to bother going into that one too much. In terms of the white paper, well, this is the white paper. It's had about 6 or 7 versions at the moment. Kind of goes through where it is. The only thing I should have pointed out was when I was running through here. I mean, for me, it's an alright white paper. It's definitely the ones I prefer. But you can see here it talks about those 3 layers that we've already talked about: digital IDs and utilities and toolkits, which aren't mentioned in this one because, as you can see, that utility level and the chain are kind of mixed together in this energy web core. So that's why there was a little bit of a difference there. We can kind of see things like messaging, storage, oracles, bridges. They're all kind of in and around there. I don't know what the narrative was to change that. That's where it is if you start looking into it and feel a bit confused. But there's some fairly decent breakdown as to what each of the individual things are in here. I'm not going to read them to you. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, just have a look at the white paper. It does label it out pretty decently. What's the white paper missing? It doesn't have a detailed section on tokenomics. We will go over that a little bit later on, but it was missing that from there. That's the kind of thing I like to have a look at, but it wasn't there. In terms of roadmap, if you want a real techie breakdown of everything, you can go into off the white paper. There's a link you can click on right at the top, which takes you into sort of, where is it? Nope, not there. It's somewhere here. I've obviously can't find it. Not done well on finding information. But there's a link. I think it might be this one. This companion piece, which takes you to here, and he goes into it in a much more detail. When I talk about dry, this is the way it gets its driest. I don't know why I've got page not found. I'm not sure. But anyway, that is what it is. Roadmap. Let's see if I can try and find the roadmap. There is a roadmap on here. So just the website in general feels a bit corporate. I've got nothing necessarily against it. It's pretty easy to navigate. You know, it's just a website. On here, history and roadmap. Here we go. So there are 2 companies I'll talk about in terms of the history for it. RMI and Singularity. So it's got 50 projects, 25 countries, and over 100 partners. But that's not the roadmap. History and roadmap. I've seen this roadmap earlier, but it ain't here now. Okay. What I will say about the roadmap, wherever I saw it, is it's only up until the end of Q4, might even be Q3 2023. So like what we're doing right now. So that kind of needs updating and sending out to the right, as I think we kind of need to understand where this is going. It's great that, you know, the chain only recently launched, and I know that they've got new projects coming along. So I'm not going to go into the detail, but there are things like NGWeb X, which is having a crowd loan application at the moment through the Polkadot network. Just throwing it out there. But yeah, there's definitely some other things going, but it'd be really nice to understand what that is, where the direction is going on the website. So for people that are coming new to this, they can have a look. In terms of social medias, they've got all the usual ones you'd expect: YouTube, LinkedIn, Discord, Telegram, Twitter. I don't know why in my notes I wrote Instagram. They don't have an Instagram that I'm aware of. One thing I should have said, and I didn't actually, just with the foundation. So they are based, they're headquartered, if you will, in Switzerland. Now, Why is that important? You know, we don't normally talk about where they're based, but actually Switzerland's a bit of a unique country because their regulatory body, you have to forgive me, I can't remember what it's called, are invested in cryptocurrencies, and that they are very pro working with them and trying to understand, you know, what it is they're trying to achieve and where the direction they want to go. So we can see why that, you know, makes sense. This is, you know, it's a company or a project that wants to stick around. It wants to, you know, be working, you know, worldwide, yes, but it wants to also provide the assurances and the tick boxes that they're not going to be investing all this time and money, and then the regulators are going to go, no, we're not interested. So I don't know if that's why they chose Switzerland or if it's just a happy coincidence, but it seems to work quite well there. The partnerships we've kind of gone over. But yeah, the energy companies, the blockchain companies that are based within them as well, that tech companies, non-profit organizations, they've got a nice bag in and around that. And it kind of gets us onto the team. And I'm not here to go through each individual team member because, you know, I don't know who they are from Adam. And hey, some of you guys may know. Our team, here we go. But this team's in alphabetical order, so again, it's not particularly the best. I'm just going to try and say Jesse Morridge, he's the CEO. And a lot of the other key positions that are in here have backgrounds either in the banking industry, the blockchain industry, or the energy industry. And when I say position, I mean very senior positions, you know. I'm talking C-suite kind of level individuals on boards, etc. So you can kind of see how these relationships have been developed with some of these large companies, because actually the team has ex-employees there. But you can also see that they've recruited the right people into this. Now, the only reason I mentioned Jesse, because I actually think he's got a pretty interesting background to this. I don't know if you can click on this. So I'm hoping it says it in here. It might not. We'll go through where it is. So Jesse's the current CEO and former CCO of Energy Web. Through his career as an electric sector, Jesse has focused partner with utilities, technology. Okay, it's great. He was, prior to EWF, he was a principal at the electricity practice for Rocky Mountain Institute. During his time, he was research, convening, and consulting work. Oh, it doesn't have it. Okay. I don't know whether this is true. I was hoping in here it was going to. But when he originally, allegedly, I'll just say that in case I'm wrong, when he started at EWF, he was the secretary. And then he became the CCO, and now he's a CEO. And I think, well, you know, okay, I've just told you they've got a great team, but for some reason they managed to appoint a secretary, and within 7 years he went from a secretary to running the business. Now, I'm sure he justified that because they've got a pretty strong board themselves, and they wouldn't have just employed absolutely anybody at the CEO role. But it was just interesting that he went from secretary to the CEO, if that is indeed correct. I wonder if we click on his LinkedIn, if it will say what he was originally a secretary. Oh, I haven't signed into it, so we won't bother with that. We'll have a look at that later. Anything else from... I'll go over the last couple of benefits and drawbacks a little bit later on. I think what we'll do now is we'll just have a look at tokenomics side of things. So Energy Web, here it is on CoinMarketCap. We're not going to look at CoinMarketCap because, ironically, the market cap for Energy Web token is incorrect. Where have we heard that before? Like, CoinMarketCap just cannot seem to get a market cap correct, and it's based on the circulating supply. So here they have the circulating supply at 30 million tokens of a max supply of 100 million. Everywhere else though has it written differently, and that's why we're going to base it on here. So we've still got a max supply of 100 million. The total supply at the moment is 69 million, but the circulating supply of that is 48 million. So that's why there's a difference in market cap, which obviously affects the value of the market cap, its position on the ranking scale, etc., etc. This seems to be the accurate one based on all the other information that's out there. So we'll have a look at a chart in a little bit, but Energy Web EWT, for those of you that are looking at it in the ticker, it's currently around about $2.18. And as I just said, it's just in the low 200s in the ranks on page 3. It's got a market cap of 104 million based off a circulating supply, as I said, of 48 million. There is a max supply of 100 million. We'll go down the breakdown of that a little bit later on. And there's currently a total supply 69. What's the difference there? Well, there's like a 10-year release window of where some tokens are. So circulating is what's on exchanges. Then we've got some supply, total supply, which is still held by investors. And then we've got this inflation rate, if you will, up to 100 million, which will come out over, I say 10 years, it's probably about 7 years left now. So that's where it currently sits. In terms of exchanges, I'll be honest, it's not actually listed on that many exchanges, which you could either look as a good or a bad thing. It's on Kraken, it's on KuCoin, so 2 exchanges that I am registered with. So that's fair enough. They're fairly decent sized exchanges, both of those. And it's on gate.io. I've never used any of the other ones, although I do see that it is down there on Uniswap as well. In terms of volume, it looks like the biggest volume actually is on P2B. I don't even know what that is. Of 120, and then all the that's with USDT, with BTC and everything else seems over there. But the Kraken USD is only 34,000, which isn't a lot, I'll be honest. And KuCoin's around about 50. So out of those two, that's what I'll be going with. But when we're talking about 50,000, this thing costs $2, just over $2. We're not talking about a lot of transactions, so it is quite a small market. So if you're looking to buy a lot, you might slip the price. So you need to bear that in mind. Okay, let's have a look at, is it this one? Yeah. Okay, so tokenomics. So as I said, there is 100 million EWT that will ever be in existence, and they're distributed as follows. So we've got the EWF, so top line operating fund, it's just about 11 million. We've got the EWF endowment fund, which is 10 million. So that's like, I don't know, foundation, if you will. So the foundation has around about 21%. Now, what is difficult is the lockup periods, because I don't know when this started from. So I'm going to assume, given that this is over 3 years old, everything except for the EWF community fund is out. The numbers don't necessarily stack up for that. So we just need to know that some probably is block validator one that's also being held off. But anyway, 38% of the fund, or just under 38 million tokens, are for the community fund, which is used to support development in new technologies in EWS. And this has got a linear release over 10 years. So it's been going for 3 years. So some of that's going to be released. We might as well just assume, well, it is. It's going to be 3.7 or 3.8 million tokens a year. So we've had about 10 million of those, just over, being released. We've got the validator block rewards. So this is over a logarithmic curve over 10 years. And we'll go through what the breakdown of that is per block. But this is just block rewards. So we know that's there. Founders tokens given to Rocky Mountain and Grid Singularity, 10 million. It's 2 years is up. I'm going to assume that they're out, or it can be dropped. And then we've got roughly around about 21 million for different rounds of fundraising. That's kind of where that sits at the moment in terms of the linear block rewards. So you can see in year one, it was just under 2 million. It kind of drops to 1.8, 1.7, which is, we've probably had that released at the moment. So quick maths there, it's going to be 3, 4.5, 5.4. Let's just call it 5.6 for cash. It's already out. So 50% already out. And then it just drops off significantly. And you can see by year 10, there's only 15 tokens that are coming out there. So again, this is actually a pretty decent article on it, I'll be honest. Is this why I saw that he was a secretary? No, that's just taken from his bio. But it goes through other members of the team. But this is a decent article to have a look at in terms of where it is. Probably explain things a lot better than what I necessarily did. But some fancy diagrams if you like that kind of stuff as well. So what about the tokenomics? Because what does this token do? Well, it's one of those ones where, yeah, it's used for governance, used for staking. You know my opinion on that. I just think, what's the point in having a token if it doesn't generally have a use case? And yes, this one has another one in terms of it can be used for payments. But actually, I think this is a genuine requirement where it is used for payments, because it's not just transaction fees for, sending assets across things and for paying for validators and gas fees and everything else. But actually, this is what you can use, or you have to use EWT. Once this network is, fully up and running, everyone's on it. If you want to get an ESG report or an accreditation or some of these other terms, it's an IREC. Sorry, I didn't get what the acronym was. But any settlement or requirement for those is paid with EWT. So there's actually is a use case for people to have to spend EWT to pay for these things. Now, it does also use Oracle technology, which we've talked about in the past, so that it can, and a partnership with a company called R3, so that it can, have these transactions recorded and effectively lodged immediately, rather than these multinational companies sort of like, blasting out 1,000 transactions, and then at the end of the week it gets settled. Because we know the cryptocurrency prices for tokens are quite volatile, so this kind of does some whirly magic in the background and kind of has a ledger of what price it was at what time, and then things can be settled in a more amenable manner afterwards. But I think that it seems like for once the use of it as a payment service actually has a point, because there are things that will be generated off this network and these dApps and smart contracts, which companies are going to need, and by forcing them to use EWT, we've got a point for it. So I kind of like that. There's another store value, another use case for EWT token, but actually I kind of think this is a bit of a disadvantage rather than a benefit or a drawback. And that's as a store of value to represent how clean and renewable your energy is that's on the network. And I just don't see the point in that, I'll be honest. I just think that feels more like a gimmick than anything else. I don't know what the scoring matrix for that would necessarily be. And if the price is going to fluctuate quite significantly as well, that feels like that could either shoot them in the foot or really screw over whoever was holding that. So I don't like that element of it. It feels a bit of a soft excuse for a token. But another big benefit, which I kind of touched on, but I didn't go into detail, was just the team. I really do think the team is well set. We're talking about core developers from the Ethereum network also coming across to help. So people who really understand blockchain technologies, EVMs, and everything else, as part of this project going forward. And you want to have a strong team built around, because we're not messing around with small organizations here. We're messing around with the big boys, and we need to impress them. And I think this team is in a position to definitely do that. What are the drawbacks, though? Because, it's not all rosy. Let me just... Okay, yeah, I'll leave it on this one at the moment. I think for me, realistically, the biggest drawback has to be the sector in which we are engaging in. Because, as I said at the beginning, we're talking about monster-sized global behemoth energy corporations. People that, despite all the palm shaking and PR and everything else, the core, for the vast majority of them, the core earnings that they get are based off services provided by the burning of fossil fuels. And whilst they may talk a good talk about obviously wanting to move into renewable energies, because that is where the future is, does that mean it's going to happen tomorrow? No, I feel these companies are going to be so big that this is going to be something that is going to take a long time for them to do. Yes, they will eventually move there, but they're going to try and squeeze whatever they can out of an existing legacy infrastructure, which, yes, okay, they have to pay to upkeep it, but they don't have to build anything new. And so they can maximize their profits in that area before probably kicking and screaming, reluctantly moving across. So I do think that is something that, shouldn't be overlooked. And in terms of the timescale of what we're talking about, do I see this fully up and running in the next 2 or 3 years? No, I don't. Where do I see this up and running? I probably don't even see it before the end of the decade. This kind of feels like this is a project that will be big in 2030 and beyond, when a lot of these governmental targets for carbon neutral, etc., need to be hit, is maybe where we might see it. So potentially a longer play. I'll come back to that in a little bit. And the other thing is the sector, and I talked about this before. There aren't many cryptocurrency projects that are doing that now. You can see that as a benefit, but I actually see that as a drawback, because people just can't get established. They can't get running within the sector, which means that there must be some pretty big hurdles that people have to overcome. Are this team gearing themselves up to try and challenge those hurdles? Yes, they are, but they're hurdles nonetheless. And if we actually have a look at both CoinMarketCap, this is the total top energy tokens by market cap. Now, we know Energy Rebs is wrong because they've got the wrong figures. That's actually 104. So that would be number one. Then it's Power Ledger, eForce, and then no one. So you've got 3 companies there out of it. Go to Masari and we look at the energy networks. They have basically just energy networks and Power Ledger. So there's only 2 of them. And that kind of makes you think, well, where's the innovation coming from? Lack of competition, but also people just, as I said, there were loads of companies that started in 2017, 2018 that never made it past the first hurdle because it's a difficult sector to crack. And I feel that that's still going to be the case. Whether or not it's because these energy companies, although they say they want to move that way, are just going to try and milk it for whatever we can, or there's just some technological, there might be some regulatory or some other hurdle that's really just, restricting competition within this sector. So for me, I want to see some healthy competition because I know the sector is alive and well then. And I don't mind if there's 50 of them and they're all battling for it, because the best will come out on top. But the fact that there's really only 2 players in this kind of has me worried a little bit there. So what do I summarize, I suppose, or conclude with this? I like the project. I think Energy Web, it's good. I think it's got a genuine problem that it's trying to solve. I think it's got a great team set up of what it's trying to work towards. And I think how they've gone about starting this project and developing it, I think works really well. I couldn't get you to look at the roadmap, it wasn't there, but they've gone through testnets and everything else, and everything seems to be ticking along. The network's over there. Did I not click on it earlier? I went on it doesn't matter. I think when I went on the scanner to have a look at all the transactions, there's 85,000 transactions a day. So there's obviously some movement on there already, which is great to see. I think it is, enterprise and major corporations, it's a sector that we know there's a lot of money within that. So I think it could do it. I just wonder about how long it's going to take to get up and running. Realistically, for this to actually be fully fledged up and running, I don't see it till the next decade. So, we're talking about a bull market in 2 years' time. I'm not sure it's going to be fully up and running. Just hold on to your hats before I conclude there. Maybe by 2028, 2029, maybe it's there. Now, that doesn't mean that this price can't move, which I've not gone to look at the chart, because, this is going to be in a buzzword sector. Of course it is. So there's definitely potential for this to moon. And when I have a look at the price in a moment, you'll see that it mooned last bull run. So there's certainly opportunity for it to move, even if it isn't in a fully developed system. So what am I going to do with this one? I like it. I will likely add it to my portfolio, but I'm just going to try and work out risk to rewards. I only want a select amount of tokens that are on the list, and is this worth me adding it at this stage, knowing that in 2 years' time I'm getting rid of my entire portfolio? So is it something else I could potentially go with? Let's actually just bring up a chart. I know I've already done the conclusion, but I hope it helped whilst I've run through that. Let's have a look. EWT on the euro. Let's have a look at the Kraken one. This on the weekly. I mean, like everything, it is just fallen. But, you can kind of see in 2021, I mean, okay, that was a spike early, at the beginning of March as well. But when the rest of the bull run, end of April, beginning of May, $24. So, it's a 12x from where it currently sits at the moment. And like a lot of altcoins, it never really recovered from it. Bit of a tasty head and shoulders there on the weekly, falling down to the baseline. And we've done what a lot of alts did. It had that alt season last summer. And then actually, no. I take that back. It had the alt season. And then this year, it's definitely died off. I suppose like a lot of alts have. No. You're right. Like a lot of alts, it's sort of fallen away. And at the moment, we're below that 21 EMA. And it is really struggling to get past it. Let's just drop it down to the daily. See if we can have a look at some levels. I mean, it is on support that this time last year is on. And prior to that, it was in, its development phase in 2020. So, we're really kind of riding on that. And if we lose that support, I just want to see what level this is at. $2 to 160. It's kind of the next support level. So a decent way to fall. We kind of know alts are still struggling generally. So that might be another reason just to hold off getting into this at the moment. But yeah, it's I don't know if you can use perpetuals, but at the moment, just looking at this, it's closed above the 21 daily once in nearly 2 months. So that feels like that's a pretty strong resistance level. If you can short that and it comes close to that, like gets up to like 22.40, or you want to put it in and having your stop at like, I don't know, 20.30 or something like that, potentially. I didn't say at the beginning, obviously not financial advice. You do what you want to do with this. I'm just doing the research for it. So let's have a look, see if anyone's commented on anything whilst I've been rattling on for the last 40 minutes. Richard, going back to Poppy, I can't remember now, to be honest. It was certainly long ago. Probably bought on the hype of the ICO launch. Knowing me back then, yeah, I would have done the same. Remember rightly thinking, getting around about break even. I did like the potential of the project though and what they're doing. I just see it taking a while to make real inroads in the property market. I think that's, real world assets. One, they got to make the inroads with the industry, and two, they got to try and sell it to people, which, that's a mindset thing. My initial interest was sparked by Simon talking about putting assets on the blockchain many moons ago. Okay. Focus was slow last time I looked through properly though. It's been expected. All right. And then I got a pal who's developing an energy company. He's got a loft full of humming tech, and a variety of guys rocking up to his house and spending hours at the laptop. He was talking about EWT 2 years ago. This is the thing. I think the way they've gone about it, certainly within the industry, is definitely game changing. The names out there, I didn't go through them, the partnerships, but they're partnered with like the likes of Google and BMW and all these other ones. Now, I haven't bothered researching into what they're doing. China have got quite a bit of partnerships with them, which is interesting when you think about where they are in terms of fossil fuels versus sustainable. But so I can see and I can understand how people in the industry may be talking about it. This is definitely one that I don't want to say gets shilled. It does get talked about quite a lot, probably due to lack of competition and the fact that it's in a sector which is pretty dominant. But I also think the way that the company has been set up and it's working at the moment probably justifies some of the talk right now. It's just whether or not now's a good entry and where that could go. If we just go back to, we don't normally do this, but sod it, why not? From where we are at the moment up to, all-time highs, it's like a 20x, just over. We're kind of getting back to the noise that we were the last one. Still looking at a sort of a 7-8x. So, yeah. Okay. I think that's kind of it, unless someone's got any questions on EWT. Hopefully that one's a little bit better than previous ones. A little bit more information within it. Sorry if it is a little dry sometimes there. It's funny because, I only spend a day or two looking at these. And I think that's all you really need. I think you can understand if a project's any good within a couple of hours of looking into it. And then, sometimes I'll look at the project and I don't think it's worth me investing in, but I still continue to research it because I know I've got to talk about it. But, when we get into bull run, the more you can understand how to research and you can just quickly decide whether or not it's just hype, shilling, or it's actually a good project, is definitely going to help. So, hopefully, if it nothing else, this just gives you a sort of a framework of what to look at. I just look at what problem does it solve? What is it? How does it work? Tokenomics, team, drawbacks and benefits, although generally the benefits I've already talked about in the previous sections, and then where I conclude it. And that feels like it's enough for me to kind of understand where I'm at. I think I'm also in the benefit position or the beneficial position of I don't really want more than about 12 tokens, so I can be nitpicky. What a term. Right, no one's put another question in there, so I'm going to assume that that's all good. So let's just close this one down. I'll have a drink of water, and then we'll look at some charts. Where is it? Is that it? Yeah, it is. Okay. Right. Bitcoin. So, as I tried to say, Bitcoin's price was holding on around about 26k, and then the last 2 days have kind of said, whatever you're talking about. But you can kind of see for the last 2 months, or a month at least, we've been hugging 25 to 26,000. Where's 26 there? So, when I came up with the idea of what I was going to talk about, that was kind of where it felt, we've been, and yeah, we deviated up and we deviated down, but generally we've always come back to that, and we may well, and we'll have a look at why that might be the case soon. But we've started to show a bit of strength, and generally for the last 7 days we've been in an uptrend. We're coming into some interesting resistance levels, certainly on the daily, and when we go and have a look at other timetables, you're going to see that the price that we're currently at and the price that we've spiked to seem to time with a lot of EMAs. So this could just be a move north. I can't get away with not saying it's FOMC day tomorrow. So maybe we're just getting a little bit of a move before any announcement there. We'll talk about FOMC just before we wrap up. But let's just get rid of this line now. You know, I've gone through this before. You know, I've drawn it before, and I'm always being in a debate of whether or not we are in an M formation has happened here. We're in drop one, or if we're still in that consolidation, looking for a rise up to take the second shoulder of an M on a rise 3 pattern before we fall away. So my view, as it has been for the last 2 weeks, is that we are in drop one, and we're now in the consolidation period of that drop. Let me zoom in a little bit better. Why do I say that? It's just the move we made away from the 50 EMA. Just makes me feel that that was a genuine drop. We've ranged here. This, remember, you know, this was an outlier in terms of it was grayscale news, and then 2 days later, we didn't get any of the spot ETFs, so it just corrected itself. Funnily enough, we are now at a similar price to the grayscale news without any actual news getting us there. So, but it just feels like we're still in that consolidation zone. But what have we done? We've consolidated sufficiently that we've actually got ourselves back to the 50 EMA. We are still above it at the moment, but the day's 1 not complete, and 2, it's that whole cloud you really want to be looking at. So I'm still thinking there's a drop, there's a couple more drops to go, and those drops are going to take us to potential levels that we will look at on another chart in a moment. But let's try and go down on a few other time frames, shall we? So just so I can do this. I mean, look, at the moment, I'm on the weekly. But look what we've been held at the moment. It's the 5 and the 10 EMA on the weekly. We've kind of lost that. We go down to the 5-day, exactly the same. The 10's holding us back. We're on the 5-day. 3-day, we've now got the 200, the 200, the 50, and the 10-day is pushing us back. So it feels like there's definitely some stuff in the way. The 2-day, I mean, that wicked perfectly to the 50 on the 2-day before pulling back. We've talked about the daily. 12 hours, so 200 it's hit. So you can kind of see some of these are squeezing. And the 4 hour, we're going to get to some stuff we can actually talk about something other than EMAs now. So the question really is, okay, on the daily we might be consolidating, but are there any lower time frames that can give us a clue as to whether or not we've been having some micro rises to give some sort of credence to the fact that, yeah, we get little rises in between because the daily takes so long to play out. And potentially, the 4-day might start to tell us the picture. Now, it doesn't tell us a great picture on here because the 4-day is still a pretty long time frame. But what we are starting to see is certainly a double top that's formed in and around, I can't remember if this is the 8 or the 200. One day, I'm going to remember which colors these are. It's the 800. So we had rejection off it yesterday, come back down, we've tested it on the 200, we've bounced back up, and we've rejected off it again today. So we've got a double top that's forming there. So that could be something because we know double tops look an awful lot like M's. So I'm wondering if we drop down onto lower time frames like the hourly or maybe even smaller, we're actually going to see that we've had 3 rises and now we're looking for the drops. So feel free for anyone that does this stuff to contribute if you feel I'm right or wrong. So it's a question now, well, where are these rises and the drops? Well, is this the W? Down at the bottom here, what we saw on the 12th of September, and we had rise 1 up to here, and we had it pull back. When rise 2, oops, can't get that right. So climbed up here, pull back. We then had rise 2, pull back, rise, I mean, I don't know if you want to pull back and consolidate, I suppose. Oh, come on, Harry, you're better than this. Rise 1. I'm going to put a break because of it. Rise 2, consolidate. Rise 3, and then some sort of M formation. Now, second peak might be slightly higher, but that's not abnormal. That does sometimes happen. So that doesn't necessarily rule it out, but, you know, that certainly could be a play. On the hourly, I could make an argument for that. How long is it taking to play out? It's taking about 8, 9, well, 10 days, really. So, yeah, maybe, actually. You know, bear in mind it's an hourly, 10 days, 240 candles. That could work. And so that kind of seems to tie in with a few things. Now, let's just clean that up. I forget sometimes just when you got the lower time frames, you get a lot more information. So try and make it so we can see just what we're at the moment. So in terms of the double top, It looks like a double top to me, but let's just take this off for now. Just so it seems we're calling double top. Where's it going to be? Where's the neckline going to be? I mean, is that the neckline? This one doesn't really touch down there, so maybe not. So is it more of a flat neckline? I don't know. Is it like this? It still doesn't touch, so that's kind of where it's messy in there, but a bit of a gap, and it's coming back through. And there's almost like a little double top within this one as well on the hourly. Maybe rising up even for, dare I say it, shoulder, head, maybe another shoulder. With that being a neckline there, comes down here and then it breaches. But the only thing about this, I will say, is it's flat lean into it. So I don't feel like there's much of a drop back down. But I do think that we could be then just taking ourselves back down into that consolidation range. So, 26,400 back to where we were before. That kind of sort of ties in with potentially what we're looking at. Let's just have a look, because Chris has put something. Daily BTC top of candle body on the 13.723 of 13. Then through the cluster of candle tops at 8.823 through today has been strong resistance. Could be 25. Yeah, I think. Did you post that in chat? Or I think someone did. But yeah, I saw that in Discord. So I'll try and find it all for you now. Here it is. Might be because I'm on the log. Let's just change. I don't know what you use. I mean, whether or not you do wicks looks pretty good. Let's see what it looks like on the bodies. Body's looking pretty good as well. Don't know what today's going to close at, but yeah, I think you're right. It's showing some decent resistance there. Let's just pull out, see if we can bring that any further to the left. No, it doesn't look like it. I mean, there used to be a time where I'd get excited and go, we must be able to connect this. It's a conspiracy. Look at that. Look at that. It connects all the way back to November, to the all-time high. It must be a good trend line. It's probably a bit too far to think about, but it just, what a coincidence. It does go all the way back there. Okay, I didn't think that was going to happen. But yeah, I agree, Chris. Sort of that kind of level there definitely ties in. It would have been great if we'd get that to connect here. Not always the case, unfortunately, but yeah, from that point of view, I definitely agree with that. And just looking at the angle in which that's climbed up, back in compression days and everything else, it just feels, like there's some sort of, oops, I don't know, did that just magnetically connect to there? I don't know what that happened there. It just feels like whether you're doing wicks, no, we don't want to do wicks because that doesn't connect at all. We're going to have to do wicks because otherwise, so I suppose it is on a daily. Maybe the 4 hour look a bit tidier, but it seems to be compressing. But this would also lend credence to maybe retesting 27,800, which when we look at high block a little bit later on, maybe a relevant place to go before falling back down and retesting sub 26,000. So if you are a compression person, then certainly that kind of ties in with where that one goes. This was the one that we did on the 25th of July, which we kind of tidied that up. This on the weekly at the moment. You can kind of see on the 21 EMA here, it is holding that one quite nicely. Let me just head back, because what I would say, when we're talking about the weekly and EMAs, let me just, I'm going to have to add one. $200 weekly. Not a chance to be trifled with because it's not right. There we go. So the 200 weekly, not a chance to be trifled with in terms of, you see how far back this goes. Always kind of held a bit of support resistance. Every time it's gone over, under, decent buying area. And everyone got excited when we broke it. And we stayed under it for a long time. But it kind of has bounced off of that a couple of times. Found some good bounce at the moment. Hasn't got enough to stay above it. We'll have to wait and see. But I think shouldn't ignore that one. Again, what's that at the moment? It's pretty flat, so it's not, it will move slightly up, but it is 25,700. Let's call it 26 for cash. by the time these things move along. So again, another indicator that maybe saying 26,000. The narrative certainly last bull run before this happened anyway was anything under the 200 EMA buy, because over a long enough time horizon you'll be fine. This kind of puts stop to that, but we have had a few wicks underneath it. Maybe it's an opportunity to have a look at. One thing to note is retail patterns tend to play out on the second level drops, so the rising compression makes a lot of sense. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Tacos. Right, so we've had a look at BTC. Let's have a look at a few others. Let's just get into high block. I mean, I try and update these a little bit. They kind of still tie in on the bigger picture, but I think this is only on the 3-month chart here. But even on the 3-month, what we can see at the moment, so 28,400 is starting to build at a level. But the real big area is still around 24,000, all the way down to 23,000, which, again, is what we're looking at here. There's an awful lot around here, which if we are looking at drops, another place to go, I think that's really realistically the next level we're going to test. Now, what I would say when I say realistically going to test, maybe it might take 2 drops to get to that one, and that's as low as we go, or we test that one and then we're going to start to look at just above 20k. We'll just have to wait and see with that, but that's why I've kept that one there, and that's still showing it even on the 3-month chart. I mean, if we move this up to the yearly and run it, we can see that 23 up to 24, and then up here 32,000, which we've also kind of identified up here. So they're still the 3 big areas that I'm looking at. 15, there's people saying that we can't get to 15. I remember people saying we can't get to below sub 30. I've given up saying how low we can possibly go, because unfortunately we can. Do I think the bottom has been in? I think it has. 15k I think was well bought up, and it's been a long time since we've been down there. But black swan events, global economic crashes, whatever you want to call it, nothing's out of the window, certainly where I sit at the moment. Have I sold any of my Bitcoin? No. I don't know what level I'd look at to try and sell it, but at the moment, yeah, they're just the ones that I'm looking at from a much bigger point of view. And again, when we're talking about this, we're talking about daily and weekly. We're talking about months for these patterns to play out. So plenty of time for that. Right, let's have a look. So Polkadot. So this everything might look a little bit messy, because these are the stuff that I put on the 25th. We'll change this a little bit later to the 19th. So what do we have here? So I think people have known that my sort of new potential buy zone is going to be these wicks here. This is the last. This is the weekly chart, but this is the last bastion of hope, which it kind of played in and around with, in the first couple of months of his existence. It almost got down to there. I mean, anyone who bought at 390, it's a fairly decent buy. It's pushed right up, but now it's got to get back through this noise, which I don't feel like it can be able to. I'm certain at some stage it will make a run for this line, for the EMA, as it has done many times before. But yeah, until the overall altcoin narrative changes, I kind of feel like those levels for me are still the same. In terms of fib levels, the only problem we got now is we've either got to draw a fib based over 2 years, or we're in uncharted territory at the moment. So at the moment, all I can really focus on is where that price is going. Now, if we drop it down to the daily, we can kind of see that it really has been interacting and been rejected from, for the last month, maybe 2, this 21 EMA. And again, recently that's the case. We've had it rise up. It's lower high after lower high, lower low after lower low. The downtrend is still on. And so although it had a decent move up, yesterday, but retraced before the close of the candle, yeah, $4.20, that's a big level for it at the moment, and then if it can close above this, it's still got $4.30 from a daily point of view. Decent amount of noise in and around here, in and around there to get through. So that box from 420 to 440, such a critical level to get through. Gets through that, maybe there's a bit of a hope for a mini rally. As with most other things, I still have money on the sideline. I've kind of made the decision, September and October are not great months. I'm going to just sit on my hands and see where we go. I'm already invested in quite a lot of these. I am underwater on dots, even when you take into account my staking rewards. But staking rewards at the moment, I haven't checked recently, but I'm probably over 1,000 now. So that's going to help bring that back. And I've been staking it since November last year. So I've almost done a year's worth of staking. So, you know, that's just easy money when it comes back. A nice passive income. Yeah, it hurts at the moment, but I feel in the long run, that's going to pay off a lot better. That had I just bought in now, I would have missed out on that 12 months nearly of free dot. And that free dot for me is hopefully what's going to make this worthwhile for all the other pain I'm suffering. Ethereum. Oh, we've actually got some fibs on this one. Let's go back to the weekly. Let's have a look. So I'm just trying to see what we did. So we drew from the bottom up to where we got into April. And let's have a look. So, I mean, where were we last time? We were July 25th. So we were here. So that 236. Well, it lost that. It's attacked the 5, hasn't it? That's so we can zoom in now. So it has attacked the 5. Can we pull this across to the right so we can just take in everything else? Keep it. There we go. So we come down to the 5. And then it's re-attacked this 382, which is a level we've kind of identified. And at the moment, you know, it hasn't been able to break that. I think a loss, you know, a rejection of that certainly is a retest of the 5. And if, you know, potentially the 618 is where this one's going to go down. Weaker candles. This could be a couple of months before this plays out. There is this level now with the 21 EMA, which is kind of like halfway between the 382 and the 236. So around about 1700, 1740. But to be fair, it's not really paid too much respect to that recently. So, sorry, I was talking with my hand over my mouth, so you probably heard none of that. But yeah, if we could drop it onto the daily. I mean, the daily, this, although it was drawn on the weekly, I think it's still, you know, the body closes still seem to tie in quite nicely. And as you can see, the 21 EMA is where it's been rejected for the last 5 days. So of the last 5 days, every day, the close has been pushing that. So, you know, see what happens today, but it's not really got much room to go because that's quite a small candle. So it feels like this needs to break out. Might be some people getting a little excited here. I'm not one of them, but if you see it, fair enough. Is that an inverted head and shoulders? And if so, we potentially might see it get back up to the 1740 level. But yeah, because I'm not really trading in terms of derivatives. I don't look for these at the moment, unfortunately. Doesn't help you guys, I know. BTC we've gone through. Richard, I've remembered. I've scrolled up to yours, so I'll cover those in a minute. BNC, when we started on the weeklies, let's just have a look. Oh, long time since I've done that. Where did we draw this one from? Down here to up there. Okay. I mean, it busts through this one, so there's something not quite right there, but everything else seems quite nicely. Around about this 9 cents. I do feel a retest. I'd love a retest of 15, 16 cents because I sold all my BNC. It'd be an ideal time to get back in on that one. So, yeah, sitting on my hands, waiting to see whether or not we retest that. I sold at 20, so a little bit under at the moment, but that can change in a moment's notice. Again, on the daily. I mean, look, you know, these bars that are getting smaller and smaller, tighter and tighter. The push between the fib level and the EMA. I do feel like a move is scheduled. I'm going to have to use that hopium because I'm not in the market with it at the moment. It's funny that mindset because if I was in the market, I wouldn't mind if it go down because I'd just buy some more. But if it went up, well, I'm moving in the right direction. But yeah, so that one kind of just need to watch, but it's definitely, you know, this level's been pretty strong over the last couple of weeks. It's compressing it. It's really been fighting this EMA. It does not have much room to go. You know, if it continues on this trajectory, it's only got 3 days until it's going to have to bust out and do one way or the other. Okay, Multiverse X. So interesting. Okay. So again, no fib level because we're having to go back 2 years otherwise. But we came back. We retested this zone, which was from back here, but it came right to the bottom and it's bounced off that one quite nicely. It's a decent way from the 21 EMA, which it has been attracted to. So think with the momentum it's shown over the last 2 weeks, there definitely could be some upside towards it. Not far, but maybe another $6, 30 cents. Well, by the time it gets down, maybe to about $30. Could definitely be there, but if it gets rejected when it gets to that point, it's just continuing the downtrend. We're going to get in to have a look at Bitcoin dominance later, and the story is pretty telling with where that one's going. But anything else in the way? Not really. I mean, even if I did it for me, nah, I'm happy. We'll just watch it there. I think the fibs just extended too long. I mean, let's drop it onto the daily. Let's see if we've got anything we can work with. Okay, maybe we could. Let's just have a little look with from here down to there. So this one, obviously, we have cleared above it. It's done that in the past, but it's not really stuck the landing for more than a couple of weeks. But that 30 cents 618 level, is the $30 we were talking about from the weekly time frame. So maybe that's just where it works its way up to, and it comes back down. At the moment, yeah, it didn't quite get to the 382. I'm not sure this is the best fib level to use. It doesn't seem to have stuck much of them. Glimmer, you're in it. You just got to ride the pain. I do think this is a great project. I think it'll be fine, but with token emissions, with changes that are happening with Polkadot and how they do power chains, etc. This is just going to continue to bleed. We've got 2 more months, I think, of emissions going to be out. That could be good or bad because we might just have an even bigger dump. I'm kind of hoping we get down to 10 cents. I mean, I'm in for it now, so I just need to go as low as I can to try and buy some more. I've got a little bit left in terms of on the sideline to buy some of this, so the lower it can go, it's just going to bring my dollar cost average down. I am staking this one. The rewards aren't as good as Polkadot, as in how many you get, but I'm earning some free ones, so we'll leave it with that. Casper, one that a lot of people have talked about. So I am back in Casper, still very small amount, 1 and a bit percent, so nothing major. What was I drawing here? Is this on the weekly? Okay. So this was down here to this one, and then seeing why it's come back. But on the 20, so that would have been here, this red candle, when we saw it. But it did go quite nicely up to the 287, the $5 we saw. It's come all the way back down. Not quite tested it. And then it's coming back up there. I mean, it feels like, it does almost look like it's bounced off those. So it may not retest it, but yeah. And then it's a case of where to get to. I think if any of you sat on the hands and you are looking to try and get in, well, if this came back down here, it would kind of look a bit like a double top. So you may be skeptical about getting in here, back at the 3.8, but I think it'd be worth just once it gets into there, dropping down to a lot lower time frame and just seeing how this one interacts. But or it could just be doing that little pullback before a huge climb up. I don't follow Siam's trap pattern or whatever it's called, so you'll have to bear with me if it's trap 5 or whatever terminology it is. But maybe it is just a pullback before climbing back up. The only thing is, it's does it do this normally? Coil there? I know some people have sort of suggested that's not, but it's not really. It's just sort of like hovering around. It's just trying to get through this 5 cents level. So maybe you might get an opportunity to retest at sort of like 44. Maybe it spikes down to 4 cents dead, something like that. But only 4 cents dead's down here. Maybe it buys down to get down here. But if you believe in it and you believe in the system, then it's a move up next. So you should be buying any pullbacks. If you get the opportunity for it to hit the 21, then that might be the place to go and do it. But yeah, if we go a bit lower, I know so many people love Casper. I think it's worth going into lower time frames on it. What do you see here? It's like looking at one of those ink dots, because there'll be some people that'll be like, Casper's crap. Here's a Head and Shoulders. It's going down, back down to here. Some people see it. Okay, I'm not sure I do. Others will be, oh, no, what are you talking about? This is what I'm seeing, and we're off to the moon. But I don't like how that left shoulder's form there, but yeah, absolutely. For me, it just, we had that huge rally up to all-time highs. We've had that correction. It's 4-hour candles here, but it's still, a decent correction over a month. I found it. I mean, I just wonder whether there is some form of double top within a double top that may have a look at that. Now, this little double top here, whether you want that as a neckline, could potentially take you down to 4 cents. Yeah, around about 4 cents. Or you have that as a neckline and it just takes you down to 44. Maybe it's a triple top. The reason I'm sort of reluctant to say that this is the neckline, I'll zoom in now so you can see it, it's just because of the breach we had below. But yeah, maybe it's some sort of pattern in there. It's just bouncing through it. So maybe an opportunity for it to reattack 49 and then come back down. But either way, it's just a mentality of sort of, if you're really in for it for the long haul, and I know some of you are quite heavily invested within that one, you need to sort of buy time. If you think there's an opportunity for you to add to your bags, just wait. Hopefully, some of you weren't like me and you got in decently early, in the 2 cents sort of bracket. And it doesn't really matter now, you add to your bag, whether it's 48, you add to your bags, whether it's 52, your cost average is going to go up, but either way, it goes up. And it's not that much of a difference because you've already got a decent sized bag down below. But yeah, I have, I'm not sold on this. I went over this last week. I still think there's some things you need to do, but it is worth getting some investment within it because, you can't deny the movement, whether you look at the 4-hour, the weekly, or the daily. It has done what a lot of other tokens haven't, and that's gone up against BTC and in dollar value. So, don't necessarily fight it. And just see what can be made from it. Link's a bit of an annoying one for me. So I did okay. We talked about this on the day it happened. I sold 50% of what I had at $8.26. I sold the rest around about $6.50. It might have even been a little bit less than that. So I'm probably just up from where the price is at the moment. But I had an opportunity to get back in at sub $6. I didn't take it. And Link has moved hard. I think it's about 17% it's moved in the last couple of days. Now, there has been some links with some real-world assets utilizing oracles, including Chainlink. Maybe that's what's driven the price up. I don't necessarily know. But we know that it's been in this ranging pattern for a while, so I'm not sweating it too much at the moment. But it's a strong green candle, and I'm going to sit on my hands. Bearing in mind how Bitcoin is outperforming altcoins at the moment, this could quite easily turn around. And I don't want to find myself jumping in it at the moment. The 2 boxes there are just a representation of $5.50 to $9 because that's what it's been ranging through for some time. Although that should be down to $5. It's not. It should be $2 either side. Not sure why I didn't get down to there, but anyway, that's what it should be. It's a logarithmic, so they are evenly sized in terms of price, but not in terms of representation on the chart you're looking at the moment. It's just ranging. It's probably why we haven't bothered putting in a fib level for it. But yeah, I look at this. I wish I'd kind of acted on it sooner because actually, even on the weekly, I might have missed it anyway. That would have been an area I was looking at, but it never quite got down there last week. So maybe I'm all right with missing that on there. But yeah, I'm just going to wait and see where it goes. The likelihood is if this upward trajectory continues, it's probably going to find some trouble in and around $8, just over, and then for it to correct itself. So I just need to actually think the reason I sold was not because I didn't have any faith in the project, because I wanted to get more units. I've missed an opportunity to get more units, so I need to be a bit more disciplined next time going through. Matic's not looking great except for today, apparently. So again, we've gone from June up until February. Are we on? Whoa. That's June 22. That feels like a long fib. But anyway, that's what we did. It's fighting on this one here. I mean, if we can pull it out, you can kind of see so the numbers aren't in the way. But that's what, it's coming perfectly down to this and it's bounced off. Has that happened today? Okay, last couple of days. So what have we got looking forward to? Well, it's struggled with the level we're at the moment in terms of fighting the 21 EMA. So we've got to contend with that one. And even if we do, well, we've got potential run up to sort of 64 cents before, pretty decent bib level, and quite a lot of price action beforehand. So positive to see that it's moving up. Of all the ones that's moved today, this one and Link have been moving the most. But yeah, just need to wait and see. Just want to make sure I'm not missing any questions because I scrolled up. That's the CoinEx chart you got there for Kaz. Does that make a difference? I don't know. Should it make a difference? I don't know. The price I think is the same, but I know we had that discussion last week. I'm not going to get drawn into it again. I'm trying to find that chart. Look at OKB. Now, OKB, this is a sob story for me. This is on the daily chart. And I swear to you, I think I sold here at 41. I might have been lower. And it has had, what, 8 days of just solid green action at the moment. It's just been climbing away. And yeah, it's not been wanting to turn around. Now, it is coming into a decent bit of previous noise where we have seen it turning around. So maybe this is the time it does, but I pretty much sold at the bottom of its current range, and it's gone back up there. So a little bit frustrating on that one. Again, just waiting for it to come back down. If it does, then that's where I will be going from. It's almost at 5-1. Is that what you're getting at? Okay, let me have a look. Sorry, just doing this. Oops, what happened there? I know it's on a different screen. I'll move it across in a second. Okay, yep, it has moved up there. Fair enough then. Price has moved. I will have to just see why that chart hasn't moved as much. Okay. Ignore everything I said about Kaz. We'll have to have a look at that on another chart. Thank you for that. I'll tell you what one I'm interested in. We'll do it now. This one. Still there. Good. Okay. Because that's what I bought it on is KuCoin. So I'll be selling it on KuCoin. So it's good to know what it's selling for. It'd be interesting to see if I'm going to move this one just up to here. Interesting to see if those two catch up. Anyway, right. Near. So near again. I mean, I feel like I've broken record with a lot of these altcoins, but it is continuing to fall away. 21 EMA on the daily is holding it hostage as it has been for a while. And it doesn't really touch it on it's not touched it on the 50 since April. So I'll say on the weekly. So I think really, if we're looking at the EMAs, that's definitely the one to have a look at. But over the last few days, is this some sort of double bottom pattern sort of formed there? Still got to get through this. So today, tomorrow, I'd like to see it breach that level. I mean, it's still got a bit of work to do to get above sort of like 120, but I'd like to see it sort of get past there. Issue we've got, I suppose, is that, which is kind of where it's at the moment. We got all that noise from recently, plus where this came down to. And anyone else in the past? No, apparently not. Oh, yeah. Just zoom out far enough. All right, okay, we'll just leave that where it is. But yeah, it does feel like some sort of double bottom there. If we take it down to a 4 hour. Looking even better with that. Yeah, trying to climb through, or whatever you want it is that. It's your double bottom, an even bigger one. So you've got a double bottom within a double bottom. But still, you know, 118, 119 to get through. Quant. So Quant worked for me in terms of I sold it at around about 100 and it's fallen. I'm still waiting to see 83. That's what I'm waiting for this one. Oh. And again, this is on the 4 hour now because we haven't changed it, but we've had that fall away, but it's meandered across, and we've got to the point where it's actually caught up with it. But unlike what we saw in near, this one has fairly clear 4 hour double top. And so maybe we have got to move down to look at. But whether or not it's going to get all the way down to 83, probably not on that move. Not unless the rest of the market goes with it. So yes, one to watch there. Rose had a good move up. For anyone that actually did buy some at the beginning of last week, it's a nice position there. It's had a strong move up. So pretty good. I think it's getting back to sort of where my average buy was in. And this one I didn't sell because it's staking, so I'm happy with that. And this one has on the 4 hour. I'll have to change this. Oh, actually, no, let's zoom out because I've got some other stuff marked up here. Right, what are we looking at? So we drew from the bottom to the top. It's on the weekly now, 21 EMA. Had 3 bites at the cherry there. And that's where the circle was from last time. So, I mean, at the moment, the 21 EMA is at the 618, so at 4.6. So maybe that seems like a logical area for it to be drawn towards. And then what it does there, we'll have to wait and see. But, you know, what's that from here? A 10% move. I probably could have worked that out. But I've looked better. Okay. Yeah, there is A to BNB. I mean, the only one I've really been watching is BNB just because, you know, it's such an interesting level that it's at. And I don't think these recent bounces are particularly a good sign. Yeah, okay. There's been some strong buying pressure. There were rumors, both of these occasions, a lot of BNB was being sold to, or Bitcoin, sorry, to peg the price up. But, you know, we talk about this all the time. We lose it. It's just such big drops. You know, there's almost $100 there. And the best part of $150 to the next 2 levels. Yes, on the weekly, if I put it on the daily. So there's an opportunity there. Do I think it'll kill Binance? No, I don't. Do I think it'll drag a lot of other ones down? I actually do. I do think that Binance is big enough that if that loses that, it could drag Bitcoin down with it as well. So definitely one to watch out for there. And if it gets low enough, it might actually get out of the others / shitcoin section, and it may join OKB in an opportunity for a place to buy. I mentioned this last week when we talked about Binance FUD. There's a lot of smoke at the moment. There's, you know, a lot of false narratives being explained, even stuff like the Sifu stuff, which the SEC have kind of said that Binance have used. Binance come out and categorically said we've never used that. Obviously, one of them's not telling the truth there. But all the people that have moved, smoke without fire, has this, you know, knowing what we now know with how exchanges artificially inflate their tokens, this just feels like it's artificially inflated. $600 for a utility token, which was, you know, in the hundreds of millions of these tokens bloody floating around. It just doesn't seem like it was necessary for it to be that value. And I still think $200 is too expensive for it. So yeah, I don't have anything on Binance at the moment. You know, I've not for months unless I've needed it. So, you know, who knows what's going to happen with that there. My USDT is stored on the Binance Smart Chain. You know, I know a lot of people ask that question, where do you put it? I put it there. I can send it to other places. I think Kraken takes BUSD. Certainly, I did double check that there's somewhere I can send it other than Binance if Binance decides to freeze everything from happening. So I feel like I can get rid of it quickly. Let's just have a look at Total 3 and then Binance. I'll look at some of the other ones people have asked for because I didn't realize how long we've been talking for. So Total 3, you know, I think we might have dipped under $1 trillion last week. Yeah, we did. But again, it's recovered quite nicely. But we're coming up, you know, I think 1.8 to 110 is going to be an interesting level for it because we've got the 21. But we've also got, what's this, a 0.236 level. So stand by. It's previously been the area of interest. We saw it retest that there, but a loss of that one, you know, we're going to start losing a lot of faith, and that's overall market cap. That's not even Bitcoin dominance here because Bitcoin's within the price. But yeah, that's one to definitely have a look at. On the daily, I'm pretty certain the picture's going to tell the same. It is. It's, you know, it's showing the right things in terms of what we're looking at with the altcoins. This is above the EMAs. It's still moving up. It's got room to run. So there's, I mean, I know I said that a lot of alts are struggling. This one looks like it's got legs to run, but maybe it's got legs to run into the Bitcoin market or into the USDT. I don't know. No, they'll be into the Bitcoin market. But then again, you know, alts are also climbing up again, similar to how Bitcoin looked. We've had a day or two pulling back, but it's moved strong from those levels, and it's still climbing up. So we are seeing that alts are putting in some percentage increases. Again, good to see. Bitcoin dominance is still up, and as we can see when we go into the Bitcoin dominance chart, I was on the weekly when I stood at this. It got to 52, it fell away to 49. Everyone was celebrating that Bitcoin dominance coming down as alt season again. Nah, it's just gone and retested. It's just gone and retested the 21 EMA perfectly, and then a strong bounce from it, and a very strong bounce. And now we're retesting those levels. I don't see 50 holding. I see a retest. I do of 52. Let's do it. Let's throw a fib on. Let's see what happens. Take from here. It's pretty darn close. Not quite there. It's pretty darn close. I mean, let's just fake it until we make it and just see if wick to wick gives us a better picture. Oh, it does. I should do my wicks to wicks. Obviously, it works better. But from a wick to wick point of view, that's moved perfectly up to there. It's pulled back to the 236, which is tied in with the 21 EMA, and it's bounced back up. I do see a retest of 52. Now, the question is going to be, is total market cap going to go up? Is total 3, going to go up? Because if total 3 isn't going up, it means that Bitcoin's going to climb and the altcoins are going to suffer. Total 3 goes up as well, the whole market's moving up. Well, that's not necessarily true because Bitcoin could be suffering, but I'm assuming we're talking about an uptrend here in general. So for those of you that do have some altcoins, those of you that have Bitcoins, there's definitely an argument to be said that actually we may have the room up. And I know I spent the first 15 minutes of this price analysis saying we could be looking at a drop too, but if we just go back to these, is it actually, as I said, W, rise 1, rise 2, and then we're looking for the M in rise 3, and so maybe we do get that lift up to the high 20,000s to find the M before we turn it around. Maybe that's where it actually is, and unfortunately, that's what it is in crypto. There's no certainties of anything. I'm not teaching you to suck eggs there, but it really is a case of, we've just got to play the probabilities, look at every side, and just because your narrative or what you want to happen isn't playing out in the charts doesn't mean that's necessarily wrong. You just gotta, play what you see. Okay, so with a few others. So Richard just put, if I set up a new Trezor hardware wallet using my current Trezor recovery codes, can I continue to run both side by side as a backup? I actually don't know the answer to that. Part of me is going to say no, because when you originally set up your Trezor wallet, I think the first thing it asks is, are you recovering an old one or are you setting up a new one? Now, I've never had to recover an old one, so I don't know what happens when you press it, so I'm making an assumption, might be wrong, that it won't then allow you to set up a new one as well. It'll just update what that is there. Now, you can have multiple different wallets within your Trezor, so you could recover your old one, and when you put in your hidden seed phrase, that can be Harry is amazing, and then you can just set up a brand new wallet, which is Harry is an idiot, and that's just, it's on your Trezor, but it's just a separate hidden wallet. Giving away the name of both of my wallets on my Trezor now, but you get the point. So it feels like all you need to do is recover your old one onto your new Trezor, and then if you want to have some new stuff in a different wallet, just set it up as a new hidden wallet address. Okay, I might not be able to go through all of these, Richard, but I'm going to try and go through a few. Let's have a look at Unibot. Spelled incorrectly there. Unibot. I have never heard of this, so wow. So this is for me a classic token launch in terms of the hype's brought it up and it's blown off and everyone's sold, and I hate to say it, but this has got further falling in my opinion. See how the candle closes. If the candle closes like that today, it's definitely got further falling. If it can recover to $65 today, maybe we could have an argument that if it does it a few more times, $65 is a base. It's just going to consolidate around here. But if it closes below here, I see it. I mean, certainly retesting 30, but there's no guarantee that it won't go lower than that. So, yeah, not the best looking chart initially off that, having known nothing about it. XD. Let's go into crypto. Radiant. Is that all it's on? Radiant. Okay. He picked some belters here. I should. This one again is looking unfortunately pretty ugly. It's only been going for 5 months, and we're in all-time low territories. It's not many exchanges. I don't know what the liquidity's like, but it feels like, yeah, we've got further falling to go there. I can't give you a target necessarily where it's going to go, but unless it recovers, if it recovers this candle today and gets back to, let's just say 1.48, then there's an argument can be made that it's had a touch point there and a touch point back there, and maybe we are forming the base, and maybe we wick around and start to build it. But if it doesn't, I feel like, yeah, it's further falling to go for that. I can't give you a figure because my chart doesn't go back enough. Right, go on, I'll do one more. RLB. I'll tell you what I'll do after that is I'll do some this evening when I got off chat, and I'll just post them in Discord for you. Rollbit. I'm going to go with Poloniex. I'll do that, and I'll do that. Put a 2 on, we'll see. Relatively similar. I mean, again, this is a month old. It's had that classic acceleration. Everyone's bought off the hype, and then those that have had the opportunity have dumped it. And I think this has got further falling to go. This is just, for me, this is going to retest, you know, sub 10 cents easily. I don't see this holding particularly. But yeah, we may do that, but I think it's going to do that, and then it'll find some base right down here. Okay, this one has given me a bit better picture, but it still shows the same. I mean, actually, now I see that, because it was here before, wasn't it? No, it was here. Where was it? 5th of August. Yes, it was here. It was this before, which kind of made me nervous. It's pumped up. But actually, maybe it's pulled up, pulled back, double bottom, climbed up. Feels like a double top, though, and it's coming back down. Unfortunately, I stand by, but I think we may have a target. I think 10 cents is certainly a target to look at. I'm not saying it's got the chops to hold, but yeah, sort of around about there. Maybe where you might find some support. You know, the neckline of that double bottom. It's come through. It's obviously spiked down there. So 10 cents where I'm looking at. Okay. Well, I think that's probably it for me. I know there's a couple more I need to do. I'll have a look at those. DNX and LLU afterwards. But again, it's close to 10 o'clock. It's been a couple of hours and I haven't had anything to eat, so I'm starving. But I appreciate everyone looking in. I hope you find some information you can utilize on the EWT. And I have a whole list. One of the guys sent me a Discord message with probably 50 tokens. No joke. To have a look at. I'm not going to go through them all, but I've certainly got a decent amount to populate the list with. Some of them I've already covered. Some of them are pretty big, so I'll try and pick ones that I think will be interesting to the group. I'm now going to definitely correct my Casper chart because I'm using an old one and I need to understand where that's going. And yeah, other than that, just to say thanks for tuning in, everyone. Trading Pub is usual time, 2 o'clock on Thursday. I'm sure Simon would ask me to tell you to book onto the Cuddle in November. I'll be going to that one. I've already booked my hotel room, so hope to see some of you there. And other than that, guys, have a great evening. And yeah, I will speak to you all soon. Cheers now.